Mm-hmm. Hmm. Huh. It's still showing that thing.
Well, it's showing Jill right now.
Huh?
It's showing Jill.
Are you happy with it?
Yep.
Because it's showing that's the preview as well.
Not on my screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I got it. I figured it out. Okay, all set then.
So somewhere I have to start the webinar.
When I wasn't sharing, it was up on the right top of my screen.
Mm-hmm. Christopher Columbus.
Let me stop sharing and see if I see it. No, I don't see it anymore.
Well, they're all sitting waiting to come in, so.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Wow.
Luther, I'm going to take back the screen.
Okay.
Christopher. Oh, I love technology.
Had you made me moderator?
I had made you a
Co-host?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's funny because I swear I saw something that said,
I did too. Now it's gone.
yeah, it's start. Well, maybe I think the participant. Maybe we already started it because all the participants are there. I see 43 participants.
Okay. Run your slideshow and I'll call Leslie.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
one. No,
Okay, should I start?
no,
Waiting for her to say so.
I'm typing. Will you trust me on this? Could you just read it from a paper?
It's not gonna look good.
I know, but if we lose it, then you won't be
Okay.
there at all. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
When should I start?
when that slideshow goes away.
Oh.
What?
Am I on?
Yes. One more minute, just.
I could put it here.
That's fine. Everyone's on. Everyone's ready.
When you put this, tell me what to say.
Welcome to Glastonbury's 2020 Candidates Forum. The forum is sponsored by the Citizens Education Committee of TALK, a nonprofit organization based in Glastonbury that encourages active citizen participation in government. This year, we have 8 candidates running for state offices, 4 for the Senate and 4 for the House. The forum will begin with the candidates' introductory remarks, followed by a question and answer period. The topics for the Q&A are limited to those which impact Glastonbury and its residents. We have asked the candidates to adhere strictly to the time limits. The moderators for this event are Julie Sirkowski, Assistant Professor in Residence in the Department of Journalism at the University of Connecticut, and Dr. Rebecca Townsend, Assistant Professor in the School of Communication at the University of Hartford. Now I'm going to ask the candidates and the moderators to turn on their sound and video, and we will begin. Julie?
There are 4 candidates for state Senate and 4 candidates for the House, as was explained. Senate candidates will be asked a total of 8 questions. House candidates will also be asked a total of 8 questions. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to respond to remarks made by his or her opponents. Rebecca?
Thank you, Julie. I invite all of the candidates to introduce themselves briefly for 1 minute, and we're going to start in alphabetical order. So Jill Barry, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to TALK for not only doing this forum, but for everything that you do for our community. My name is Jill Berry, and for the past 2 years, I have been the House Representative for District 31, the great town of Glastonbury. My most important job that I will ever do is mom to three children who attend Glastonbury schools. Professionally, I am a CPA. I started my career specializing in governmental and nonprofit accounting. I took some time off to stay at home with my children and did a lot of volunteer work. Volunteered in the schools. I was a Girl Scout leader. And most recently, I am the treasurer for the Friends of Northwest Park and also Connecticut River Book Auctions. And again, I am delighted to be here. Thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Chip Beckett. Chip.
Hi. Yeah, I graduated from Glastonbury School System in 1975 as president of the class. Went to Purdue to pursue my ag and veterinary degree, which I did. Went to New York for a year and then moved home and decided I was going to start my own business here where my parents had bought the cider mill farm and run it with them. I've done all those things. Met a Glastonbury girl and got married and had 2 kids that we've raised, 4th generation Glastonbury residents from their grandparents' side, and was active in state and national veterinary associations and was asked to run for the town council after serving on the Water Pollution Control Authority, and I've been on the town council since 2005 and served as chairman of CROG for 2.5 of those years because I was the chairman of the Glastonbury Town Council and they liked my ideas for regional government. And here I am trying to improve the state for what I think has been a badly run legislature for a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Stephen Cassano. Stephen.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be again running as a Senate candidate for the District 4, in particular for Glastonbury. And I want to focus my time on Glastonbury right now. About 4 years ago, I was approached by some students. They were members of the crew team, and they asked me to try and help them work out a way that they could get something to cover the boats that they use for crew. Well, that ended up in a long process that led to the development of what is now the boathouse. And to have that sitting there in Glastonbury, a landmark on the Connecticut River, was at a very, very exciting moment for me. But more important, it was an effort to work together, an effort of the town council, of students, of taxpayers, getting together, of getting $2 million in bonding to help it, and having the governor's office support us. That's what a senator has to do.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Matt Corey.
Hi, thank you for having me talk, and it's a real honor to be here. I graduated Manchester High School in 1882, lifelong resident of Manchester. I'm very familiar with the 4th Senatorial District. I joined the United States Navy right out of high school. I came home, I worked for the Postal Service for a little while, I worked for the Teamsters for a little while. In 1990, I opened up a small high-rise window cleaning company, going 30 years strong today. I hire inner city kids, second chances. I got into the restaurant business in 2002. I opened McKinnon's Irish Pub in downtown Hartford. We shuttered our doors in 2018 looking for a new location. I happened to open up another restaurant at the East Hartford Golf Course called the One Wood Pub, and going almost 2 years strong. My major concern, the reason I got into this race, is the affordability in the state of Connecticut. I look at the younger generation. We have an outflow of young talent that's leaving. We look at the shuttered schools here, not only in Manchester, but around the state. And I'd love to change those into trades academies. And we need a strong voice and strong advocate for jobs and small businesses. And I have 50 years combined. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll next hear from Jason Doucette.
Hi, everyone, and thank you to TALK for hosting this debate. I'm Jason Doucette. I'm a proud dad, husband, attorney, and small business owner, lifelong Manchester resident, and it has been my honor for the last 2 years to serve as your state representative for House District number 13. And it's been a very productive 2 years. Our first year, 2019, we got a lot accomplished, passed a lot of good legislation for working families. Personally, I stepped up and served as the acting chairman of the committee, the banking committee, something to my knowledge a freshman has never done, and wrote and passed a lot of important legislation there too. My first 2 bills that I'm particularly proud of that I introduced on day 1 were for tax relief for homeowners and small businesses, and I got those both passed as well. 2020, of course, has been about COVID-19 relief and helping our communities get through COVID-19. And I have been dedicated tirelessly in my efforts around the clock to my constituents, helping people get through this through unemployment benefits, small businesses. And that's really been my focus over the last months. It's going to be my focus into 2021. And I look forward to having this discussion tonight.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Kelly Green. Kelly.
Hi, my name is Kelly Green. I'm running for State Senator of District 4. I am a new person to politics. I don't think that you necessarily have to have political background. I think a lot of the politics that has been made a career is what's wrong with part of the Democrat, or not the Democrat, of the democracy. I'm a proud mother of 2 little kids. They're 3 and 5. I just want to see a better future for the youth. Right now, I feel like there's a lot of voices that aren't being heard, specifically the youth and the seniors. And I just want to make sure that when someone writes an email, it gets responded to, just for the people. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Next is Harold Harris. Harold.
Oh, thank you for including me in this session. I was born and raised in Iowa. After graduating from Iowa State University with a degree in aerospace engineering, I came to work at Pratt & Whitney. I worked there for 33 years. I moved to Glastonbury in 1971. I have twin daughters and a son that went through the Glastonbury school system, and I now have 8 grandchildren. And I've had from the communities. I started my own business when I retired from Pratt & Whitney, and it's a plastic injection molding company, which was based in Manchester. And now I sold off all the equipment and I work on it as a consultant. I was a Boy Scout leader for 9 years. I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce of Manchester for, I think it was eight years. And I'm currently on the board of directors of a group called the Scribes Institute, which is in Hartford. We try to help kids in the Hartford school system know that what the opportunities are for them. I talk about engineering and aerospace and those kind of things. We have other people that are accountants and lawyers and stuff to encourage the kids to seek a better future.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Next, and our final introduction is from Brian Marois.
Thank you all for taking an interest this evening in this evening's forum, and thank you to TALK for hosting this event and giving an opportunity for the public to learn more about these important issues. Also, thank you to the other candidates for taking time and partaking in this event as well. I'm a lifelong resident of Manchester. I live here with my beautiful wife, Stephanie. I currently serve on the Manchester Board of Directors, and for my full-time job, I'm a financial advisor and vice president of a bank. I decided to run for 2 reasons specifically. The first is I'm very passionate about fiscal responsibility, and with these massive deficits that we have and tax increases consistently, I found it was important and took it personally responsible that I should step up and help. The second reason is because our public safety is at risk. So I look forward to sharing more about myself and my views this evening, and thank you all again.
Thank you. Julie?
All of the questions that we ask tonight will be randomly assigned to a candidate, and the question will be randomly assigned as well. So you'll see us reaching into buckets. The first question for a Senate candidate goes to Steve Cassano. And the question is, in some parts of Glastonbury, there are very high uranium levels in the drinking water. If elected, What will you do to address this problem?
Thank you for that question. I will continue to do what I've been doing, working with the Department of Energy and Economic Development as well, and with the town manager's office. This problem first occurred on the other side of Glastonbury, and we were able to get homeowners that were close to the Manchester line hooked in. Those people now have a safe system because it's going to be an expensive project. It's going to have to be something that is funded by the state because it is a health hazard, a serious consideration. I met with the town manager and with Deep on 2 occasions now to move this project forward. It will take time, it will take studies, but it has to be done. There are neighbors that are reluctant to have it done, but the fact is it will be cleaner, it will be safer, it's going to cost money. It's up to us to see what we can do to help defer those costs.
Mr. Corey, would you like to respond?
Look, we have to make sure that the people have clean drinking water. And of course, the state and the town local officials have to coordinate the cleaning of, especially these brownfields that are out there. But the safety is first and foremost. Nobody should grow up and live in a hazardous environment. We need to do everything we can to make sure that these are clean. And yes, of course, it's going to take money. But this is about the safety of the community. And I'm all for doing studies and getting this done as fast as we can.
Mr. Harris, would you like to respond? Mr. Harris, please unmute yourself. Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Being an engineer, I kind of understand how these type of things work, you know, and so I think I would be able to understand all the proposals and pick the ones that are the best economically and most suited for the health and well-being of the people that are involved. Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Green, would you like to respond?
Sure. I mean, drinking water seems like a pretty easy thing that we should all have without uranium in it. I think we could definitely work together to get some stuff done. I think there are definitely pressing issues, especially with public health, with that being drinking water. So that maybe it should be more at the table than some other things. So I think we just need to look at where the money is going to come from, where the money is being spent that it shouldn't be, and maybe put it towards drinking water, which seems pretty good.
Thank you.
The next question will go to the House candidates. We'll start with House 13, Mr. Marois. And the first question. The disposal of waste will shortly become a huge issue with the closure of the regional waste plant. How can Connecticut address this problem?
Thank you for that question. First off, I think we should have more of a focus on recycling and sustainability as a whole. Those are 2 really important issues for our state and the country. I'm proud to say that I've focused and voted in favor of adding a full-time sustainability person to our Manchester staff to make sure that our programs and our town is working as sustainable as possible. So these are serious issues, but I think having more of an initiative towards education to our community about recycling and other ways that we can just recycle, not just plastics and whatnot, but other materials would be a very, very good idea to begin with.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette, would you like to respond?
Yes, I largely agree with Brian on this. We have to have a wholesale approach to our trash, and recycling is a big part of it. That's why I am a big supporter of overhauling our recycling and was a big supporter of the bottle bill, which is something we've been trying to get passed in Connecticut to expand the recyclables that are eligible for a refund. And that is a top priority of mine. For 2021. It makes a lot of sense. And frankly, you know, when it comes to the environment, like a lot of things concerning the environment, we don't have much time to waste on this issue. The time is now to act. And if Washington's not going to take the lead, then we need to be strong here in Connecticut to do so. I'm happy to be endorsed this year by the Sierra Club and the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters. And I will be focused on that agenda and again, turning the page and trying to do some things to comprehensively overhaul our trash management and recycling.
Thank you. Our next question will go to House District 31, first to Mr. Chip Beckett. How would you change, if at all, the citizens election program?
I'm actually pretty happy with the citizens election program. I think it has changed in that more groups can put money into it, like parties and unions, and I'm not sure that that is as good as the original bill, but I think it has opened up the ability for many people to compete that otherwise could not compete. It's not easy to raise the individual dollar numbers, much harder, I think, than most people realize, and I think it's worked as a good system.
Thank you. Ms. Barry, would you like to respond?
Sure. Thank you. I agree largely with Chip. I think the citizen election program does allow many candidates to participate in campaigning. It is difficult to raise the money. One of the things I do like about it is getting the support from 150, 175 supporters from your district. That really shows that you are wanted on the ballot. And I think it works well, and it keeps everybody honest, and it keeps campaigns and financing legit.
Thank you.
The next question goes to Senate candidate Harold Harris. How would you incentivize students to stay in Connecticut after college?
Well, the first thing is you have to have jobs for them to take. And the jobs have to be ones that pay adequate enough to live in the higher cost of living of Connecticut. So that's the first thing, is they have to be jobs available. Everything else, I just convinced them that Connecticut is a great state to live in. It have lots of opportunities for, the ocean's not that far away and the mountains are close. So it's a great community to live in, but we need to have the jobs available. And in order to do that, we need to improve our economy. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green, would you wish to respond?
Sure. I think a lot of people move out, one, due because of jobs. And then it's not a very likable state. We have a lot of taxes in this state compared to other states. Maybe we should look towards that. It's not very friendly for small businesses or young families to grow up in Connecticut. So maybe just look at the economy and how exactly it's affecting people who are younger and keeping them here and growing their families here. So definitely the economy, jobs, and just taxes in general, that will definitely keep people here.
Mr. Cassano, your response?
Yes, it's interesting that the patterns of growth have changed dramatically. We're seeing a large influx of people moving from New York to Connecticut, a total reversal. We're never going to have a New York City or a Boston, but we have a wonderful place to live in. There's great opportunity for people here. And by doing some of the things that we've done with University of Connecticut and the schools and the university system itself, providing incentives, financial incentives to finish school, financial incentives to stay here with a reduction in their costs long-term, their loan debts and so on. Those are the kinds of things we have to do. We have to make it attractive and still maintain the quality of life that we're used to here in Connecticut.
Thank you. Mr. Corey, any response?
Sure, thank you. Connecticut has benefited from the influx of New York because New York is on fire right now. There's no businesses. Mayor de Blasio has shut down that entire city. So we have benefited from that. But my thing is not only college kids, how about high school graduates? We need to make Connecticut more affordable and business friendly. They've taxed everybody out of this state. We have a crumbling urban center, which is Hartford, Connecticut, that is lacking business and business opportunity and jobs. A lot of manufacturing has moved out. Glastonbury and Manchester are so close to that capital city, and we rely on making sure our capital city is strong, because if it's not a strong capital city, our suburbs are going to fail. Glastonbury is a thriving community, has an influx of wonderful business and opportunity over there. Manchester is not far behind, but we can do better, and we need to make and incentivize our younger generation to stay here and want to stay here, not only through jobs and entertainment, but just a quality of life.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Thank you. We're going to start questioning with House District 31. This first question is for Jill Barry. How would you address creating more affordable housing in Connecticut, especially in towns like Glastonbury?
That's a great question and very relevant to current times. I've participated in presentations by the Open Communities Alliance, and I realize that there is a need, not only in Glastonbury, but throughout the state, for affordable housing for all ages, from our young professionals to our elderly that are downsizing and they want to stay in town to stay near their children or to stay in the town that they have lived in for so long. There are many benefits to affordable housing. It's good for the community, it provides diversity, and I am very open to and committed to working with advocates to address this need in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beckett, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I came up with the idea that Glastonbury zoning should be 4 stories in the center of town so that we can have 2 stories of rental housing over our commercial businesses, like the traditional American downtown. I know some people think we have a rural town, but if we don't go up, then we have to go out. And we've bought most of the land that's available for town open space. And I don't think we'd want to pave that over with housing. I think Glastonbury has plenty of detached homes. We need more rental housing for seniors that want to be downtown, for young people. The high school and college kids Matt talks about, they don't need a 4-bedroom colonial house. They need a 500-foot crash pad to go about their business and work. So we need some different types of housing. The other thing to be very effective is in-law apartments. Those work well in a lot of college towns where there are places for a single person or a couple to live in a bigger home, maybe from an older person that subdivides their home. So I think there are options to do it that can be scattered site, but not necessarily what we've traditionally built. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Jason Doucette. Do you support Connecticut's goal of 100% renewable energy by 2040?
Yes, I do, very much so. And I'm happy to get another environmental question because it's something that's important to me. Yeah, I think, again, we have to, as I said before, we have to go forward, and we have very little time to waste with this. The future is renewable energy. The future is not fossil fuels. So while we can continue to use the infrastructure that we have, I do not believe that we need new fossil fuel plants in the state of Connecticut. I signed on to a letter about the Killingly plant. I think we need to put the pause button on that and look again at that and other reasonable alternatives to that. So again, the future is renewable. I'm proud to have voted in favor of bringing wind power to Connecticut, and I'm happy to see that expand. I'm looking forward to the future of solar. We just got solar panels put up on our house as well, and got our first electric bill, and we're very pleased to see what that looked like. So we need to enlarge the net metering component of what we do right now in solar. So that's something that we have to continue to progress on year after year. But yes, we have to go towards renewables full steam on that, and it's something I very much support.
Thank you. Mr. Morois?
Thank you. Yeah, I feel renewables and just having sustainable practices is so important for the future, especially of the state, but also the country. And sustainability is, I guess I'm not just saying that, I'm walking the walk. I voted again, to create an executive level position that focuses primarily on sustainability in Manchester. Not only that, I voted to approve $185 million private investment into Manchester, where it's fully sustainable as well. They have its own power grid. It's the coolest thing. You guys really have to check that out. And also just voted to have an exploration process within Manchester to add solar panels to all of the schools within the town as well. So it's a pretty interesting time, but I think it's something that's really important for us to focus on. And I think there's a huge opportunity for Connecticut to really take advantage of that and have that be one of its pillar companies and industries within Connecticut. We have some of the best manufacturing companies in the country located right here in Connecticut. And if we can partner with them, make them work together, then I think there's going to be a lot of success within Connecticut shortly.
Thank you. Julie?
Back to the Senate candidates. The next question goes to Kelly Green. And your question is very long, so bear with me. In 2016, the state approved $10 million for the purchase of the MDC property in Glastonbury. In the end, the town only received $1 million. The MDC still owns 50 acres in town that the town wishes to acquire. How will you ensure that the money that was approved but never spent will be used to acquire this parcel of land without additional cost to the town?
Well, I love numbers. I've been noticing a lot of numbers going missing with a lot of accountabilities. If they were granted $10 million and they only received one, there's obviously $9 million left. If they're looking to acquire the land, I don't see that should be a problem if there was $9 million left. The question would be is to find out where the $9 million possibly was spent instead of it going to Glastonbury. So a lot of these questions I see come up when I'm doing my research. I love going down wormholes, especially when it has to do with money and missing. Those are my two favorite words apparently together. It happens a lot in government. So if this was a thing that Glastonbury definitely wanted to do, I would 100% look into why they aren't being allowed to receive the rest of their funds. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Casano, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would. Thank you for the opportunity. I was involved in getting that $10 million set aside by MDC. As I see Chip and Jill here, they were involved in the council at the same time. We all have high hopes and still have high hopes that project will go through. You are now going through a process of negotiation and process between the town administration, which represents Glastonbury, and obviously the owners of MDC. The money has been set aside, but there are criteria that the State Department of Environmental Protection wants met. There are protections that Glastonbury wants in that same piece of land. It's more than one, it's multiple pieces of land. It is one of the largest planning projects that Glastonbury will ever undertake. And so I'm not surprised that it's taken this long because of the size of the deal, because of the massive spans of the properties. They're not in just, it's not one place. There are multiple places involved, and that's what makes this so significant.
Thank you. Mr. Corey, would you like to respond?
That's the reason why projects take this long. It's about safety, but it's also about the bureaucracy of how things are done. I mean, small businesses face it every day, but as a senator, you should take this interest of your constituents and of your district, and Glastonbury should be first and foremost. And we need to hold MDC accountable and make sure the wishes of the citizens of Glastonbury is met. And I hope this deal goes through and things work out.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, would you like to respond?
Yes. One of my concerns about that whole program is that I would like to see the space remain open and wild, not developed into anything else. And so in that regard, what I would prefer to see is rather than having the state give us the money, would be to raise the money through organizations like Connecticut and places like that, and keep the land open as true open space, not be part of the development.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Thank you. We'll go back to starting with House District 13. Mr. Marois, this question will go to you first. Do you support the Police Accountability Act? If not, why not? And what changes would you make?
I think it's very clear. I do not support the Police Accountability Act. I think it's I know it's one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation that has ever come across the state of Connecticut, hands down. All it does is make it more dangerous for our police officers and more dangerous for our community. It is easier for people to commit crimes, serious crimes like drinking and driving, smuggling drugs, weapons, human trafficking. It makes it easier for those crimes to be committed and get away with it, and makes it extremely dangerous for our police officers at the same time, unable to defend themselves or the community properly. Now, Mr. Doucette will say that these changes in the bill virtually do nothing when handling police, or there hasn't been any changes when handling police misconduct claims. So if that's the case, if it hasn't held any police officers any more accountable for all these serious things, then why would you vote for it? It's not holding them more accountable, and it's making the community more dangerous. It's a very dangerous bill that needs to be eliminated. Certain things that I think need to be repealed as soon as possible in the bill would be, I'm sorry, where's my time? Is the qualified immunity, and just the basic task of when an officer pulls over somebody, they're not able to ask them, hey, have you been drinking this evening? It's just license and registration. That's it. Not, can I search the car? So I think it's extremely dangerous for our community. I think I've made that very well clear. That's why there's so many police unions that have been coming out to endorse me. The Manchester Police Union, Glastonbury Police Union, State Police Union have all come out to endorse me because they know that this is such a dangerous bill that can't be safe for the community. It needs to be changed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Doucette, would you like to respond?
Yes, I certainly would. I believe my opponent has showed exactly what's going on this year with the rhetoric behind this issue. There is a misinformation campaign being run. It frankly is coming from the very top, and Donald Trump's campaign of law and order has trickled down here to Connecticut. And my opponent loves to invoke this fear and division that this bill creates, the human trafficking and all of these things. What we're talking about here is a piece of legislation reform that was needed and was asked for by many across our state. There are things in there like body cameras. There are many things. I'm sorry.
If I may get clarification from the timer, the timing was over?
No, that was 30 seconds. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Please accept my apology, Mr. Doucette.
Sorry about that. I can't actually see the timer, unfortunately, on my screen. Anyway, this bill, there's a lot of rhetoric behind this bill. There's a lot of misinformation. There's an allegation that it, quote, defunds the police. It does no such thing. It adds funding. There's an allegation that it strips away qualified immunity for officers. It does not do that. It does not do that. And it's this type of misinformation that's really fueling this divide and this fear. What we need to do is come together and have a civilized discussion about this. We've already started doing that with the police chiefs. I look forward to doing that more next year. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn to House District 31 with Chip Beckett. Any question first? On the issue of religious exemptions from vaccinations, what is the proper balance between the rights of the parents and the rights of the state?
I think it's not just a matter of rights of the parents versus the state. It's also the rights of the other people that you expose and that are with you. I'm a doctor. I think vaccines work. I understand some people don't believe in them for their own set of reasons that I largely don't think are true, but I will certainly admit that some people have had individual bad reactions, but it's not true in a large population. But I think if you're going to have public schools for serious diseases like mumps, rubella, diphtheria that causes death in children, we ought to be, if you're going to assemble large groups of people, they ought to be vaccinated. You have to look at public health. If you don't like those rules, then I think you need to either homeschool or find a separate school that doesn't have those rules, and I'm fine with that. You know, the Amish have their own set of schools in New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio where there's large Amish communities. There's other groups, parochial schools. There's all kinds of models for other kinds of schools if you don't like the rules. But I think the public school system ought to be the public school system, and parents that send their children there know they're being educated and their health is protected. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Barry, would you like to respond?
Yes, please. Thank you. So I'll start off by saying that I am pro-vaccine. My children are vaccinated. This was a very big issue in the legislature in 2019 and the start of 2020. One of the problems I had with the bill that was proposed was that there was language in there that not only removed the religious exemption, but added a clause that said that any vaccine approved by the CDC would be required and mandated for school. And I had a problem with that. I agree with the vaccines that are currently mandated, but to leave that open-ended clause, I had a problem with that. Other things I have a problem with is pediatricians need more say in when they can grant a medical exemption. Currently, there are like three scenarios in which you can grant a medical exemption. And I think that needs to be expanded. I think that needs to be a pediatrician's decision. The last thing.
We're out of time now. I turn it back over to Julie. Thank you.
Senate candidate Matt Corey, you'll have the first question this round. Would you make the Connecticut legislative process be more open and transparent? If so, how?
Well, look, we didn't have a voice during this COVID. Our legislators refused to go back to work. And I understand that COVID hit the whole country and it was in its entirety. And to turn the power over to the governor to get things done, it was unconstitutional, but it was probably something necessary to do. But they had the chance to not extend the governor's power and give the people a voice, on opening their businesses, how to do that correctly. What the legislature, the leader of the legislatures was telling the people of the state of Connecticut, the constituents, that we can't make decisions in enough time to get these problems remedied. But yet they can go in and they could pass the police accountability bill with no public input. They could rush through emergency bills with no public input. It's just amazing to me that there's no accountability for our legislatures to the constituents, especially in huge matters, whether you can visit your family in a nursing home or your child's education, or whether somebody can visit a doctor for just routine maintenance. This is what's upsetting to the constituents, is that we didn't have a voice as the community. And yeah, it needs to be more transparent and public needs to have an input.
Mr. Harris, would you like to respond?
Yes, I agree with Matt in most of what he said, because I think having the executive orders and things back in the first couple of months made sense because we needed quick action, and so it was okay. But once the first couple of months were over and we started seeing a little bit more about what the issues were, we should have gone back into session, even if it's remotely, and have the decisions about those shutdown and all those things controlled by the legislature, not just by the edict of the governor.
Ms. Green, would you like to respond?
Sure. A lot of the reason that I am running is because there is no transparency right now. A lot of constituents are trying to have a voice and they don't have a voice. I think a lot of the things that are happening right now with the special session, if there is a special session such as the last one that went through and this one, a lot of things are being passed without any public say. So usually you can go down to the legislative building and you can comment on what you think the bill should or shouldn't be about. I think a lot of these bills need to incorporate more of a mass versus just some of the legislation that's allowed to be in. And like Matt Corey was saying, like a lot of this wasn't even said by legislators, which has a huge problem with transparency to me. If the governor can pick, 20 of his buddies to go in and make all these rules, well, we've all voted for certain people to do this. So transparency is a huge thing in my role in running.
Mr. Cassano, would you like to respond?
Yes, the most important answer to that question is that more than 4,500 people have died of COVID in this state. One of the reasons we're not in the legislative building is because of the contagion. We have to be careful. But let's talk about the process itself. I chair or vice chair 3 or 4 different committees. I chair planning and development. The Republicans and the Democrats, we first of all meet on a regular basis. We caucus on issues. We combine and share concerns, and we come out with joint legislation that almost all of the time is unanimous among our committee. Most committees do that, and that's extremely important. Many of you have been up to that building and you sat in those public hearings. Some of those hearings have gone for 24 hours. That's the people's opportunity to speak, to have their input into a bill, and then we make decisions. You cannot evaluate the process of the legislature based on the last few months when over 4,000 people have died, 4,500 plus, and not take that into consideration. We are trying to keep people alive, and that is our priority right now.
Thank you. Rebecca?
All right, we'll turn to House District 31. Candidate Jill Barry gets the first question. Most states support some form of early voting. Would you support a constitutional amendment for no excuse absentee voting and early in-person voting?
Yes, I have supported both. In the last couple months, I have supported both. In 2019, the House of Representatives passed a bill that allowed for early voting. Unfortunately, it did not have the 2/3 majority to get it as a constitutional amendment for this election. But I do support early voting, and I do support no excused absentee voting, especially in a year like this. It is overwhelmingly important that we have these provisions in place so that everybody has the chance to vote. So yes, I support both.
Thank you. Mr. Beckett, would you like to respond?
I agree. I think I missed one town referendum once in my life because I had emergencies that came in at 4 o'clock and I got home at 9. And I missed my opportunity to vote that day. I think early voting and absentee voting allows people to plan their schedule. You know, we have a society where people prior to March traveled a lot. And I think a lot of people are away, and our voting percentage is not all that great. 80% for national elections, 60% for state elections. So I think we would get more people partaking in the process if we made it easier. And I think whether it be mail-in balloting or just early voting at town hall, not every precinct, but at one location in town, as well as polling day, I think that would make it more accessible to everybody and give us a better result.
Thank you. The last question for Jason Doucette. How can Connecticut better mitigate COVID-19's impact on public health and local economies, especially communities of color?
That's a great question. Obviously, I think we have fared better in many respects in our response to COVID-19. And most of the people I've been talking to in this election season do appreciate the job that Governor Lamont has done, and there is a good team behind him. We as legislators have had input regularly into many of the decisions. With regard to the economy, we've fared better than most of our surrounding New England states and really across the country. We've done quite well by most metrics. We kept a lot of businesses open as essential businesses during phase 1, and we've been very thoughtful and responsible going in to the phases 2 and 3. With regard to, and this is a big topic, but with regard to your question about communities of color, yes, obviously the data is showing us that this disproportionately impacts communities of color, and it goes to comorbidity and the availability of health coverage in those community. That's just one of the many reasons. So that's something, again, that I'm focused on here, doing as much as we can at the state level. And obviously this is a federal question as well, about expanding health coverage to make sure that everyone's covered. We cannot repeal the Affordable Care Act. We have to build upon it and expand upon it. We need to do everything we can as a state to make sure that people have good health coverage, preventive health coverage, and that's something that I think we need to work on. But obviously, COVID-19 is going to continue to be the major issue that we as a state are going to need to confront into 2021.
Thank you. Mr. Moraes?
Thank you for that question. First, I'd like to just jump back to your previous question about the police accountability bill, because I believe that Mr. Doucette, by saying I'm drawing out false claims and driving fear into the community, really just needs to be addressed. And I think that these are some serious claims. You know, we all understand, Mr. Doucette, that you don't like President Trump, you don't like what's happening in Washington, but he's got nothing to do with how you're voting and what your voting record is and how that's impacting everybody in Connecticut. And this police accountability bill is extremely dangerous for everybody here in Connecticut. I think it's we're saying we're driving fear, and this is literally putting more people at risk. Crime is increasing. Police officers are leaving the industry in droves, and it's just inappropriate altogether. In terms of handling COVID, obviously, we want people to have health care. Whether they have healthcare or not, a pandemic is a pandemic. This is spreading. And so we need to control things. We need to continue to educate people about keeping distance, washing your hands, wearing masks, and letting people know what the real science is. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be turning soon to concluding remarks. And I believe that we have a poll about the event soon.
Excuse me, Rebecca.
Yeah.
I think we have a second round of
Forgive me.
questions.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. I only know this because I had to reshuffle my deck so that all of the people would be in random order again. So I will start with the Senate. You're good with the House, right? Yeah. Okay. First question goes to Steve Cassano. And the question is, since the pilot program for the shared solar was successful in Connecticut, and successful programs exist in neighboring states, would you support a bill that established a shared solar energy program in Connecticut?
Yes, absolutely. We have to go far beyond where we are now. We're only in the initial stages of solar. One of the difficulties we have in Connecticut is those that can really afford it are able to get solar, but too many people don't have it. This should be a subsidized program. This is where the state, everybody says we spend too much money. This is a case where we should spend some money because that'll help reduce the overall costs and demands on electricity, and the impact on the environment is so positive that it's something that has to be done in connection with the state. Just like other programs that we have for college students and not paying tuition and ways to help them out, we need to do the same thing with the moderate and low income housing owners because it'll save energy, it'll save money, and it'll save the environment.
Thank you. Mr. Corey, would you like to respond?
Yes. There's plenty of federal grants for solar programs. The state needs to prioritize where it's going to bond and send money. The senator was one of the people that voted to force Eversource to buy plenty of green energy, which raised up your delivery costs. So if you send out a mailer saying, hey, in courtesy of Senator Cassano, thank you for the high energy costs that it costs the state of Connecticut millions of dollars. I mean, we have to make energy affordable here in the state of Connecticut, but we have to do it not only with renewables, but we have to do it with natural gas. There's a natural gas pipeline coming down through New Hampshire. We have to expand on that. We got rid of all our coal-fired plants, and most of our plants are running off natural gas. We need to expand that and make energy more affordable. But it's forcing companies to buy these renewable energies at some of the highest costs, and they're passing that on to the customers. And you have people on fixed incomes and seniors, whether have to make decisions whether to buy prescription medicine or pay for energy costs. It's a tragedy here in the state of Connecticut, and it's forcing businesses out of the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris, would you like to respond?
Yes, first of all, and remind everybody I'm an engineer. I did my master's degree thesis on solar energy back in 1974. And I can tell you that solar voltaics is the least optimum way to save the environment. Every house should have a thermal system that heats their hot water before they start investing in solar voltaics. I think the reason this is missed is because a lot of the government support goes to the solar voltaics, and so it steers people in the wrong direction. We need to do what's optimum first. You can heat the hot water for your house at about 3 times the efficiency that you can supply the electricity to heat the same water. So that's what we should be doing first. I think that people need to understand that just because the government picked a way doesn't mean that that's necessarily the right way. We need to review all these supports that we're giving to solar voltaics and think about other alternate forms of energy.
Ms. Green, would you like to respond?
Sure. I think I would be down for sharing the solar within the community. I think a lot more people would be apt to use it, and they would definitely reap the benefits. I think we also need to look at some other things to save some more energy, such as we're not allowed to have a Tesla dealership in Connecticut. Looking at the bottom of that, but there's a couple things that have been voted out besides solar that I think that we need to look at as well.
Thank you. Back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Now it'll be time for our closing remarks and the poll. We're going to do our closing remarks in reverse alphabetical order, and we'll start with Brian Marois.
Sorry, my button wasn't working there. Again, thank you all for taking an interest this evening. It's an honor to speak with you. I envision a state that thrives because of economic growth, jobs being created, families with good insurance, and opportunities for everyone. And if you enjoy the feeling of keeping more money in your wallet, make Marois your choice this November. If you believe Connecticut is heading in the wrong direction, with $3 billion deficits, with reckless and increased spending without regard to a budget. If you're tired of Doucette's tax increases of nearly $2 billion, I'm asking for your vote and to make Marois your choice. And whether you're a registered Democrat, Independent, or Republican, I'm asking for the vote of every person that believes police officers are not enemies, but heroes that keep us safe. There's room for improvement, and we'll continue to evolve. And I will ensure your safety is not threatened as we grow and make policing a more diverse field. Thank you. Make Marois your choice this November.
Thank you. Mr. Harold Harris, please.
Thanks again for listening and attending this presentation. And I think there's 2 things that we need to focus on, and one is education and the other is the economy. They kind of go hand in hand. You need a good economy so that the kids, when they graduate, can have a place to work, but you also need to have a system that provides the best education in the world, and we don't do that today. Glastonbury does really well, but the other Manchester and the inner city areas and the poor, there's like about an 18% difference in the attainment level of those schools versus Glastonbury, and we need to close that gap. I've been trying to do that on my own, and I'd like to try to do that through the by being elected to the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kelly Green.
First, thanks for having third parties in this. I think that's pretty cool. I've made this party myself. It's called the Reclaim Party. It is literally myself, so that I am not part of any other agenda or any protocol, so that I can voice an opinion of the general public as the way it should be. I'm sick of having 2 sides to every story. There is way more than 2 sides to every story, and there's more than a yes or no answer. I think by having more of a voice and more of a transparency, way of doing things, it could make things a little bit more meeting in the middle. And meeting in the middle isn't a bad thing. I think you just need to start taking more of the disconnect and resolving it by listening to everyone. I just want this to be a better place for my kids. And I think that, you know, you don't have to have politician views or politician careers to be a politician. You have to just speak for the people. So I'm here for the people.
Thank you. Jason Doucette.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to the people of the 13th House District of Manchester and Glastonbury for giving me the honor to serve you. We've accomplished a lot together already, but I feel like we're just getting warmed up. So I ask for your support for another term. I have made this campaign for me about putting people before politics. And what that means is, and throughout COVID-19, we've seen it, we've seen it that the needs of our community are acute. I am talking to the people about the issues that matter to them, both responding to COVID-19 and looking forward. I have a positive vision for the future of Connecticut. I think Connecticut has a lot of potential. I love Connecticut, and I would like your support for another term as your representative. Thank you.
Matt Corey.
Thank you so much for having me talk, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell people who I am. I'm a small business owner. I meet a payroll. I think the legislature needs more people that have the voice of the constituents. You know, we're responsible for families. Small businesses owners are responsible for meeting a payroll and keeping our communities thriving. We need more representation there. You know, when people pass laws and legislation, it has to affect that person that's representing you. It has to affect the people that are surrounded by you, families, our workers, employees. And that's what we need. When you have people that are on fixed incomes, those are major concerns. We need to keep people here and better our educational systems. You know, I ran into President Trump's apprenticeship programs. We have 4 empty schools here in Manchester, just an alternative to college with a great growth of manufacturing here in the state of Connecticut, but also the trades. The biggest cost for employers are the money they put in to training these people. It would be great to have these young people be able to go right into employment with the training they need. Thank you so much.
Stephen Casano.
Yes, thank you again for doing this tonight. And this is very much like education to me, the education system. We send our children to school, they start at kindergarten level, 1st grade. They don't go from the 1st grade to the 6th grade to the 12th grade and then to college. There's a process. Government is no different. You can't just walk in to the state Senate or the state House for that matter and do what's expected if you don't understand the process. There are years of experience that are in the circle of both of those places. We've seen what that experience does. If you are green and don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get a bill passed. You're not going to be able to work in conjunction with others. You have to be able to cooperate. You have to be able to work cross-party, and you have to understand the process. And without knowing the process, you can't get things done. And so it's critical, particularly with COVID, the impact of COVID, the follow-up that's going to take place, a presidential election, all of these things. This is not the time for people with no experience to run the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Chip Beckett.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the people that are watching this. I'm running because Connecticut is functionally bankrupt, and we've had 70 years of one-party rule in the legislature, and they've made us bankrupt. We can't afford to pay our bills, we can't afford to pay our debts, and we can't afford to pay the pensions of the people that work for us. On top of that, we have COVID-19, which has devastated large parts of our business community, and those people don't really have a choice to turn to. Unemployment from Connecticut took months for many people to collect with nobody to answer the telephone or tell them what to do. And they couldn't pay their rent, and they stiffed their landlords, and their landlords can't pay their mortgage. Our legislature has been AWOL and has not done a good job for many, many years, but this year has been the worst. I'm running to bring normal small business pragmatism from the towns to fix Hartford so that we can all afford to stay here. Thank you very much. I would appreciate your support November 3rd or on your absentee ballot.
And Jill Barry.
Thank you. First, please don't lump me in with all of House Dems or state Dems. I have been in office for 2 years, and during that time, I have worked really hard and I have focused on what is important to Glastonbury, and I will continue to do that. During COVID, I was there for you. I was there for the community. I was a source of communication. I was provided resources. And I was there. I was not AWOL. I was working around the clock for my constituents. I first ran for town council and then state representative because I wanted to fight for what I believed in, and that's what I have done. My professional experience as a CPA specializing in government accounting was an added plus. We need leaders in Hartford with political courage to stand up for what is right, and that is what I have done. My voting record shows that I stood up for small businesses, the workforce, public safety, education funding, and the people of Glastonbury. We may not always agree, but I promise that I will always respect you. I hope that I have won your trust and your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Before Ketty Marks comes on for her concluding remarks, everyone got a try there, right, Rebecca? All the candidates got their closing statement there?
Let me verify with everybody. I thought I heard from everybody.
Yes?
Yes, I'm seeing nods.
Great. We would urge attendees to please take a poll evaluating this event. And with that, I will send this, it should be on your screen now, and I will send this over to Ketty Marks for concluding remarks. Thank you all. Ketty, are you prepared to close, or are you waiting for people to take the poll?
I am prepared. If everybody's finished.
We are all set, thanks.
Okay. Thank you to our candidates and attendees for participating in this year's Candidates Forum. Today's webinar is available for viewing on Facebook Live under October 12th events. Town Hall will also have the webinar. Just call and ask for Bobby Ashton, the Director of Technology there. Now we all need to get into action and vote in the November 3rd election. Please remember, if you vote in person, wear a mask and socially distance. If you vote by mail, do it early, or drop your ballot in the secure drop box outside of Town Hall. As one political scientist said, every election is determined by the people who show up. At TALK, we hope that every Glastonbury voter does just that. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Night. Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
I'm leaving. Thank you.
Jill, I think you're muted.
I somehow or other, Julie got 3 questions left. Somehow, I think maybe it was the way we had two House questions and one Senate instead of one House, one Senate, one House, one Senate. So that's how we got done so soon. And there are still 3 questions that didn't get asked, but hey, I think everybody's happy that they got done in an hour instead of 2. So
97% of the people thought this whole thing was great and gave all positive answers. I think maybe 1 or 2 people gave any negative answers. So I think it all went fine. The candidates got to talk. They're probably happy with how it came out.
I think so too.
And I think the inclusion of the Independent and the Reclaim Party was really good. I think that people appreciate that.
Good. Well, they have to have their say. I mean, people need to know they're running and need to know why they're running. So
yeah.
I really appreciate your time, Julie and Rebecca. Thank you so
It
much.
turned out wonderfully. I hope to see you again next year.
Yeah.
Bye.
And hopefully it's live and in person.
I know, it's so much harder to take cues on Zoom. It's like Rebecca, Julie, whatever.
I agree.
People enjoyed it and they learned from it. That's the important thing.
Exactly.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I know.
So Luther, I
Yeah.
can't see you. It looks like.
I know. Yeah, I've had computer. By the way, we still have 12 attendees on besides the four of us.
Okay.
So
well,
you might
don't-
just want to end it, Joe.
Running the Zoom.
Yeah,
Abby Pett, I think, is not a live person. I think that's just judging by the email address that was attached to that. Thank all the attendees for giving us your time, and I hope it answered some of your questions. I'm going to end the webinar now for everybody. Good night.